Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination is a biography about Walt Disney, a true visionary whose desire for escape, iron determination, and obsessive perfectionism transformed animation from a novelty into an art form.
(1922), Kansas City, Missouri. A young man fired from his job as a cartoonist by a boss who says he can't draw gets by making silent cartoons for local theaters. He's not a skilled artist, and these first attempts at animation are crude and one-dimensional. His drawing will never really progress, but within 2 decades, he will have transformed animation into an American art form. His name is Walter Elias Disney.
I, like many, am a huge fan of Walt Disney. Not just his films, not just his work, but him as a person, his drive, his desire, his creativity, everything about him inspires the hell out of me. So I was very excited to read this book, which is a big book, a very big book, and I just could not wait to finally get around to reading this, and I did, and it is fantastic. As you can imagine, the story of Walt Disney is a very interesting story, and Neil Gabler, the author, did an amazing job of wrapping everything up, not dwelling on tiny details to the point where it gets too kind of tedious, but also not really glossing over things. It really makes you feel like you are stepping into the world of Walt Disney and watching everything happen. It's amazing. So the book takes us from the beginning of this guy, Mickey Mouse, which we all know Mickey Mouse, his origins even pre-Mickey Mouse to when he was Oswald, and all the way up to, of course, Walt's death. But most importantly, and I was very happy about this, it's unbiased. And that is what I was really hoping for. And I mean, I didn't know Disney personally, obviously, so I don't know if it's unbiased 100%, but as far as I could tell, it painted a picture of a human being. It didn't paint a picture of a god. He's not a god. He's a human being with flaws. Some awful things happened in his life, which I will get into in just a moment. And, you know, it goes into, you know, racism and stuff like that, and I will go into that as well. It just kind of had everything, and I was very happy because I wanted to read about a man, an amazing man, not about a god, which I think a lot of people seem to think, you know, Disney could do no wrong. He was a human. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is his personal life. I was shocked. I did not know all of the awful things that had happened to him in his life. I feel like there's kind of, you know, an idea that you get about Walt Disney just because it's like, oh man, Disney World, Disneyland, Disney movies, this and that. He must have been such an amazing person with a great life. But some awful, awful things happened in his life, and I was really shocked. And I have to say the main one that I had no idea about is how his mother died. It is so, so sad. Also, their struggles having children. There's just a lot of stuff that I was very surprised about. I did not know all of that, and so I was very, very surprised, like I said, but I was really, really interested in the story of his personal life and growing up and all that. It was very, very interesting. As far as his professional life goes, it was inspiring to me because I'm kind of doing my own thing in my own life. I'm doing my thing, I'm doing it the way that I want to do it, and that's kind of what it seems like Walt Disney did. He wanted to do something, and he did it. He just started animating in his garage, he moved from there to a studio, and the rest is history, literally. It really kind of hit me hard. I was like, wow, this is what he did. This is fantastic. And so I'm very, very inspired by that, and to find out how he accomplished everything was fantastic. On top of that, like I said, it did paint the picture of a human being. He was not the nicest guy in the world. He could be an asshole, but the best part about that is I get it. You sometimes have to be that guy. If you're running a business, you're running a tight ship, you have to be that guy, and he was that guy when he had to be. But the most interesting thing that it went into is the idea that everybody kind of jokes about, and I get it, it's funny, to think of Walt Disney being racist or hating the Jews and all that. As far as I'm concerned, what I got from the book, and once again, I do think it was unbiased because it did touch upon it. I think if someone was going to be biased about it, they wouldn't even mention it. But basically, the way I look at it is he lived in a different time. He lived many years ago, and things were different then, you know? So they're talking about, like, sexism and stuff like that, and I don't think he was alone in any of these things. It kind of just seemed like that was commonplace back then. Not that he even was notorious for it, but just that he was kind of like anyone else would be. So I thought that was really interesting and a good explanation, and, you know, I definitely understand and appreciate that. And so it's not to say that he was the nicest guy to everyone. He kind of was pretty much what you'd expect for the times. He seemed like a very loving guy. And I mean, the end of his life, I guess you could say, he was just so involved in Disney World and Disneyland. I'm sorry, he didn't make it to Disney World, unfortunately, but Disneyland, he was so involved in it that how could you possibly think this is not such a loving, caring guy who just loves everything about living and life and happiness and children and just everything. And so it was just amazing to read. All of it was amazing to read. Once again, like I said, Neil Gabler, I think, did a fantastic job putting this book together and putting a lot of details in, but not enough to the point where it feels like you're reading a history book and you have to like memorize dates and stuff like in high school. It didn't feel like that, but it gave you all the information you need without glossing over stuff, which is important, like I said, because I really wanted a thorough biography on Walt Disney, and this is that biography. It is very thorough, not too thorough. That's important to stress. I want to make sure that's very much stressed because it is a big book. Once again, this is a big book. I almost couldn't move it before on the table if you saw that. And so it was very daunting to look at it on the shelf and think, am I going to get through that? But it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. So let me know what you think of Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination by Neil Gabler. Let me know if you read it quickly, read it slowly, honestly over like years. I mean, it's a huge book. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody did. Let me know what you thought of the Walt Disney story overall. Were you interested in his personal life, his professional life more so? Anything you want about that. Let me know what you think of the idea of him being racist or anti-Semitic or sexist or anything like that. Once again, I feel like what I got from the story and what I get from kind of common sense, thinking about when he lived and when he worked and everything, you know how I feel. Let me know how you feel about that. Let me know anything that you want about Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination, and that's pretty much it.
Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams
enjoyed One Man's Dream. Kindly gather up your belongings and exit out the doors to your left, and enjoy the rest of your evening here at Disney's Hollywood Studios.